One of the major topics that teachers don't talk about is actually comprehension. I know some of you are saying, but we learn comprehension almost every week. We read passages, yes. Teachers make you read and answer questions without teaching you what it is, without showing you what steps you can take to answer comprehension questions. So, in this lesson, I'm going to do what your teachers are not doing. If you'd like to learn about comprehension, understand what comprehension is, how to answer comprehension questions, then this is your video. Stay until the end and do not forget to subscribe if you haven't done so. Okay, without wasting time, let's get started. What is comprehension? In Zambia, comprehension comes in paper 2. So, you are going to find a passage and there will be questions that will follow, and you're going to have to give responses. But before we talk about that, let's talk about the purpose of comprehension. What's the purpose of comprehension? The goal of comprehension is to test your understanding, interpretation, and your reasoning skills. So when you're writing a comprehension exercise, you are being tested in your understanding of the language, which is English language. You are being tested in your interpretation of information. For example, if someone says, there is a knock on the door, they are not just informing you, they are also asking you to check who is knocking. So are you able to infer meaning from what is said indirectly or implicitly? So that is what I mean when I say you are being tested on your understanding and the reasoning skills, which goes in line with how you understand. You need to reason as you are reading. So when you are reading that comprehension passage in your classroom, in your test, or indeed in your exam, you are not just reading, you are reading with a purpose. Questions are designed to assess how well you can understand literal and implied meaning. Literal meaning is just what words mean. I am eating, it simply means I am eating. Implied meaning is different kind of meaning, like eondonga nananka kind of meaning. Implied, it's not direct, it's implied. You are also being assessed on how you can identify main ideas and supporting details. Now, I'll give you one secret. Every passage you're going to read, every paragraph of that passage is going to have one idea and supporting information. If you want to know how information is packaged in a paragraph, please go to my website. I think I've talked about that. Or comment in the description if you want me to bring that lesson to YouTube. And then you are also being assessed on how well you can interpret vocabulary and the context, because honestly, when you read the passage, and if English is not your first language, then there will be some words that you won't understand, but using other words in a passage, which we call context, and also using the whole story of the passage, which we call context, you are able to interpret the meaning of a new word or a word that you are meeting for the first time. And you are also being assessed on how well you can detect the tone, the attitude, and the writer's intention. So reading, and reading comprehension for that matter, is not just, understanding. It's a great skill that you need to have, and it's a great skill that will help you, especially when you go to university, because you'll be doing independent study, and that means you need to understand what you are studying for you to come up with answers for your assignments, for your exams, and indeed for you to understand the concepts of what you are learning, because most of the learning in uni is a bit, if not theoretical, in the sense that there is always a philosophy or a theory behind what you are looking at. Okay, so how do you just get into answering questions? The first thing that you need to do is read the questions. Read the questions. When you know what the questions they are asking, then you can go back to the passage. So read the questions, understand what the questions are looking for, and this is going to tell you what you should be paying attention to in the passage. Then mentally or on a piece of paper, underline what kind of information you need to pay attention to. And this information could be factual, it could be just reasons, causes, is it meanings, whatever it is that you have read from the question, keep running it in your mind. So read with a question in mind, not a questioning mind. Okay. Then after you do that, go to read the passage and read it actively. What does that mean? Read the question just by skimming through to get a general idea of who, what, where, and when, and why. Remember, you've got those questions that's running in your mind because you read the passage. So at this point, when you are reading the passage and you are reading very fast, so skimming is a type of reading where you really don't go into the details. Then after you have skimmed through, do actual active reading or reading in depth. Read to understand everything. Highlight or underline key phrases in relation to the questions. Take mental or merge notes. You can take notes, and in the question paper you can write there, you can scribble there. You are allowed to do so. Then circle unusual words for vocabulary questions. Words that you don't think you understand off the top of your head, circle them or underline them, highlight them, because in the passage you could be asked to define a word or to talk about what that word means in one way or the other. You should easily go back to the passage and read that word and understand. Okay? So you need to do that. Pay attention to connectives, shifts in tone and contrast. And connectives, we are talking about when the author is saying the causes of diarrhea in Zambia is because of rain. However, when the author says however, it means the idea has changed and it's a contrasting idea that's coming. Or if they say in addition, it means they're adding to that idea. If they say in contrast, so think about those connective words, and also think about shifts in the tone of the passage as you are reading, because it could signify something. Okay, what are you supposed to do next? Identify the main idea in the structure. You need to ask yourself, what is the passage really about? And in doing so, look for the introduction or the background. Look for the development, the explanation, or the main body, like what is here, and then look at the conclusion. The conclusion you will usually have a bit of a summary or a bit of a comment on what you have read, or even an opinion by the author. So know which one is actually what is in the passage, or what kind of information is just an opinion by the author as they conclude. Now, when you do this, identifying the main idea and structure, you are going to get your answers easily, because when they say what's the main idea of the passage, you know it already, you just jot it down. So how can you tackle different types of questions? Because comprehension comes with different types of questions. There are questions that we call literal questions. They ask for details and facts. For example, when you say questions like, according to paragraph so, who did the boy in the passage give mangoes to? That's factual and it's literal. The meaning is not hidden. So you can go and find that answer directly, and you can use your finger if you are writing your exam on a piece of paper. If it's a computer-based exam, use a cursor to trace that line where you have been asked to go. So in Zambia, in most cases, if not all cases, I could be wrong, but at the time of recording this video, usually the passage tells you where to find the answer. They say according to paragraph 4, according to paragraph 5. So just go to that specific paragraph and get that factual or a factual information, or get the details you are supposed to get. The next type of questions that you find in comprehension is inference questions. To the word inference or infer, to infer is to deduce a meaning from something that is not directly said. So in here, you're supposed to read between the lines. You can use clues from the text. I mentioned earlier that when you get the meaning or the clue, you are using text, right? The meaning of the word, for example, you can use it. If you get the meaning of the passage from the text, it's called context, So ask yourself, what does the writer suggest by saying this? What is the meaning? The next type of questions is called vocabulary questions. These are the questions where you are asked maybe to define a word or to infer the meaning of the word. And in that sentence, in that case, you can use context. For example, if you have a sentence like, John is a boy, right? John is a boy. He lives in that street. He lives in that street. You know that he is referring back to John. So John in the first sentence has helped you to understand who he refers to. That's a reference. But in terms of meaning, you can look for opposites and synonyms where words share meaning. And this could be a big vocabulary word, like when somebody says, in today's, schooling activities, children do not go for excursions. Others would say in contemporary times. You know that contemporary and in today. Today there in that context does not mean that today as in today. It means contemporary times or nowadays. So you need to understand the meanings in that sense. Then tone and attitude questions. Look for emotions, sarcasm, seriousness. Clues are in the adjectives, adverbs, and punctuation. So when somebody says serious, they are in shock or they are surprised. That could mean something. Then there are reference questions where one thing refers, when the question says, what does the author refer to by saying so. So in that case, try to backtrack and find the noun or the idea that the word is pointing to. So it could be the word that's been mentioned already. So how do you answer your comprehension like a pro? You need to use full sentences unless instructed otherwise. So if they say in one word, explain this, or in 2 words, otherwise where you are not having such limitations, use a full sentence to explain your answer. Avoid copying long chunks of information. Paraphrase and be concise. Answer only what is asked. Do not add in order to show that you understood the passage, so you add things which are irrelevant. You need to only answer what is given in the passage. And most importantly, don't assume, don't guess. The question should be answered as it is given. My final tips: read the passage twice if time allows. Skim, then detailed reading. Then be calm. Don't rush your comprehension. But you need to balance that point with time. If you've got 2 hours, you have to deal with 3 sections: comprehension, summary, and structure. So you need to know how you allocate, but do not rush when you read the second time, especially because just understanding that passage will help you a great deal in dealing with the questions. Then stick to the marks. Where you know that it's 1 mark, then the response shouldn't be half a page. I'm exaggerating, but yeah, don't do that. Where you've got 5 marks, if marks are allocated for each question, then please write according to the marks that you have been given. Then practice with past papers. On my website, you can find comprehension passages, and the system automatically marks. So you can use that to test yourself, and it's all for free. Just go to the website and go where it says comprehension. Let me just look at that. Yeah, it says practice tests, and then go to comprehension tests. You'll find some passages that are going to help you. So thank you so much for joining me in this video. I'll see you in the next one. And just a reminder before you go, please subscribe, please. Thank you so much for subscribing, because I have begged you. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.